fight against this absolutely lethal Liquid roster that's suddenly come alive themselves here in the playoff stage? Or will Liquid just continue to run over the competition here? They've faced off against time after time again inside of Latin America. FaZe should know how to play against this team, but they seemingly haven't got a horse in this race at this point. Bans are in, at least the first one, of course, and Hibana knocked out. No huge surprises there. Same for our second one, as Thatcher is going to follow suit.
Interestingly enough, we did have him on that last map as they opted to ban Maverick instead and try and throw a curveball in there that really didn't work out. Hibana and Thatcher with Kaid being removed from Liquid as well, making a lot of sense with that Thatcher ban coming through, so we'll see if FaZe want to get rid of something. More than likely going to be Mira or Valkyrie, I would assume, but we've seen some pretty unique bans here at LAN, so don't just trust me outright. Let's see exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be Warden, and this is what I was talking about. We could see something being thrown in the works here from FaZe. They'll be starting off with this, but you know what this means, John.
What, a lot of Ying?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. It has to be the Ying play. No one really banning Warden to go smoke plant nowadays. It's all about those Candelas and the amount of flashes that those things send into a room that makes it nigh impossible to see a single damn thing. We'll see if Liquid are going to abuse that and work that into their strategy, or exactly what will happen. We're through the initial phase here as the 6-pick phase will come through. PSK will adopt something, and yes, indeed, here comes the Ying.
At the same time, we're also going to see Mute Mozzie combo come in, so FaZe trying to deny as much intel as possible. That's a good adjustment when you consider how much Liquid was relying on intel built up in the early round in order to make their attacks so successful. Plenty of times where Liquid was sitting in a kind of scary situation with only like 30 seconds left and virtually no control near the site, basically just set up outside of it, ready to start their execute. But oftentimes teams are not really able to make that workable. However, Liquid, because of their great intel game, was oftentimes able to do so because they had this surgical method for inserting themselves into the site and isolating out the members of FaZe in their setups one by one by one. By hopefully having these, not only these pests, but the mute jammers blocking off access points to the sites, it's going to make it a little more difficult to acquire that intel that can allow Liquid to set up for those types of executes.
Yes, indeed, my friend. We'll see if that's going to help or hinder our friends here inside of the game as of right now. Liquid with a pretty cheeky drone there, if you guys caught it. There's one inside of dorms upstairs, inside of one of the bunks, so they'll have some early insight as to what's going on inside of that space. As Liquid are out of the gates and onto the map. They're ready for war when it comes to Oregon, as Palu will botch a drone here as he tries to throw it ahead of him. But luckily enough, that isn't just going to like break it or anything like that. He can just continue to move that into the site. Only 20 seconds off the board here as Liquid will begin gathering information across the entirety of the map to see what FaZe are doing with this extended hold.
So slow built again. Should be no surprise to anybody who watched the first map here. Liquid certainly taking their time about things. I'm curious to see how this tower hold's going to work out for Astro, as he's even got a mirror window committed to this one to fend off any potential early clears that would come in through Master and allow him to fire back in from the attic side. But at the moment, not looking like it's going to align too well with Liquid's own early intentions, as they're pushing into tower, and that's more than likely going to pressure Astro out of this spot pretty darn quickly.
Well, the big scare right now is how does this end up breaking down around this space. Fortunately for Astro, he'll remember to get rid of the Black Mirror, so he'll be able to work the angle the opposite way this time and not put himself into trouble. It's going to be resets inside of this space, but are they going to drone out the actual attic? Seemingly no information needed at the time, but Bullet with the very first opening blood for FaZe inside of this matchup as he'll take down Nesk all the way outside by Big Tower. Liquid have not been able to get too much done besides clearing out that Big Tower space, as they'll continue to look for where they could possibly plant and these FaZe members, but most of them already working their way back to site except for the one player upstairs.
Big Tower can, in theory, be enough of an execute potential if you're going to just try to waltz your way in through the back of the stage door, but you need to make sure you have pressure to counter out that hallway flank for the players that inside of Kitchen will almost certainly try to swing out against you. And again, Liquid do have that with still 4 players standing here. It's a pretty simplistic take, but it can work quite often here. Once again, going to use Utility to start harassing the players further back towards the Kitchen position, and of course, the smoke off to allow the first plant attempt to go in. Candela's also, the responses from FaZe still yet to be seen, as another nice nade lands, nearly takes out Bullet, and the plant, perfect from Liquid. It goes down on the ground, and now they just have to set up and wait for the retake attempt from FaZe here that Ask is already going to start putting down with the first pick against Souls.
PSK's got a drone inside of meeting as well to make sure that Liquid don't simply have to face check this. A fantastic spot from Palu as well, as he'll hold one upstairs and just continue to play the window. Can he win out the second? Oh, he can. Dastardly in the moment. Nitro Cell out. It won't be able to get any damage onto the Liquid member for Astro as he's diced up as well. Cyber done. Resets, gets it, and Liquid get the round.
3 out of 5 of those final engagements there. You see members of FaZe trying to take duels. They look away at just the wrong moment, and inside of that moment, a member of Liquid comes swinging out right when they can't see him and knocks him out of the play. Beautiful stuff once again. Surgical execution from Liquid. Great usage of their utility. The Smoke and Candela combo is perfect to fend off all that kitchen aggro. FaZe can do nothing virtually about the plant attempt without taking a huge risk on their own lives, and let's hark back to map number 1 here. Every time they try to make a risk like that, it would lead to a player dying, so they're not going to try and do it here. They let Liquid get the plant. They let them set up in a near perfect post-plant scenario, and FaZe just bow down to it as they try futilely to force themselves back in.
I mean, you especially got to give it up to Palu there in the way that he played that attic position, not playing it inside of tower, playing out on the balcony for attic instead. No one's going to check that. That window gets opened every single time that this round is played, I'm telling you. So it's such a commonplace thing that they're not even aware that someone could possibly be in that space, and it even catches FaZe off guard. We're talking about professional players here, folks. Incredible stuff from Liquid on that one. Is we're going to need to see a successful defense at some point from FaZe, and they might be second guessing this Warden ban after a handful of these rounds if they continue to go this way.
Talk more about that in a little bit here, but it's going to be another basement assault, or rather the first basement assault for Team Liquid here as FaZe went for a bit of a curveball on their first site choice over towards meeting, which quite obviously guys did not pan out there. This one's a bit more traditional. This one's a little bit easier for the defense to control here, but even then FaZe, I saw a couple players kind of roaming around upstairs towards the first and second floor position, and it's looked like we still have that. However, as we have seen from Liquid, paying no mind to those extensions in at least a few of these rounds here, so might just try to brute force their way past it, as we have 3 players already built up towards construction doors.
Well, PSK will be getting some early insight inside of this space. Palu, nobody playing inside of the lower area here around the stairwell. Souls, luckily enough, will try and challenge, but he's been droned out now as well, afraid that somebody could come in above him as they're getting rid of the Banshee, and they can continue to pressure. Souls will hop over into Harry Potter now as cameraman climbs down the stairwell, trying to assist his teammates. Some damage dealt, but Cyber will be the first one with a frag as he'll take out resets. Palu with the refrag, but Cyber yet again here as Ask doubles back. But does he get the other frag? Cyber out of bullets as Ask continues to try and challenge. We'll see cameraman come down the back stairwell as well to try and assist as PSK will slip through the cracks. He's in the back end, but there's no rotate inside of this space. Ask is all alone. PSK now with some space, but do they know that he's here? They don't. He's going to be able to pick up one, and he almost gets the second. Down to Cyber now, up against Ask. Very low HP as PSK crawls away, but he doesn't have any other avenues to be able to abuse. He has to go straight for this. Stuns out. He stuns himself as well. That could have been the challenge necessary as Cyber doubles back over. Ask will as well, and he's found him. What a clutch from Ask as he continues to show FaZe up in this matchup.
FaZe are playing checkers. Team Liquid are playing four-dimensional chess. Yes. Sorry, I got the meme wrong for a second, but either way, Liquid are shutting down FaZe and are continuing to dominate here. A massive streak coming in for them, even accounting for the previous map at this point. It is all Team Liquid sided here as they tear through the defensive side. Once again, even with an early fight advantage going by the way of FaZe there, I thought they were going to get crunched. I thought the ignorance of the upstairs hold was going to come back to bite Team Liquid, but again, Ask makes it work in an incredible clutch scenario, outpositions his opponent there, uses the flashes to mask rotates, and is able to get into a winning scenario there, despite only having like 5 HP as well. Beautifully done by Team Liquid, and even better from Ask.
Who needs an LMG? Who needs an ARX? Who needs anything? I'll take a thermite any day, fragging out of his mind. Insane stuff happening from Ask right now as they've asked quite a bit of this member of Liquid here at SI. This guy is 19 years old, and this is what he's doing on an international stage in front of all of you at home. This is incredible stuff that we are witnessing here in the moment. FaZe have got to do something up against this madman. We'll see if they can do it here in round 3, as once again they'll move away from the last site that they played and they'll go upstairs to kids' dorms.
FaZe just praying at this point that one of these sites is going to end up working out for them as they desperately transition from site to site to site, hoping to find better pastures, greener pastures to pick up one round for themselves here. But at the moment, it's been 2 very, very dominant ones from Team Liquid. While the last one was close, keep in mind, Liquid pled ignorance to FaZe's extended setup, so they knew what they were doing there. They knew it was going to be close because of that one, and still ended up out on top there, despite the disadvantage taken in the early fights. See Cyber trying to pre-pop the small tower windows to leap out, and he is going to go for it for a second here, but quickly jumps back inside. Maybe something later to be built up upon that. However, it could have been possibly relying on a bit of a gambit of someone else from Liquid being out and about towards that window, so not going to find them early on here. Ask chucking in the nade from below, not going to find anything with that, unfortunately. We will see the walk-in deal. Excuse me, that was to deal with a mute jammer, I think, that was sitting behind the wall there, as I didn't exactly line up the position mentally too quickly. But either way, deals with it successfully. Now Liquid will have that first exo blowing up the walk-in wall.
Yeah, people have gotten so good with frag grenades that they don't even need Zofia or Buck to do that anymore. They'll just do it themselves. The Souls, he's catching so much fire from Dorb's window. He's going to try and cross here as it feels like FaZe can do no right while Liquid does no wrong. Incredible stuff, at least for Liquid's start yet again here as they deal some serious damage to him. Cyber will be able to hold on to small tower though, and this could be the stick going in the tires very, very soon here for Liquid if they don't worry about this flank. But luckily for Palu, he is going to rotate off instead. Reset's starting to take some damage as well as Astro will be inside of this space in Attic. Bullet now trying to take a fight with Resets all the way outside, but can he win it? Back and forth they go as they're both on equal HP practically, knowing that there is one upstairs, but oh my god, Ask is inside once again, and he's dealing damage to FaZe. Cameraman down as he backs up and out. Palu will push ahead as FaZe, they can't shut the door on him. Astro knows where one is, but Palu does as well, and they finally are able to take out one. Cyber doubles back, but he's down on low HP. Bullet has to do something about this. They're both so very low. Reset's down low, he's down the top player, and again, we've asked for FaZe to do literally anything in this moment, but now it's up to Bullet inside of a 1 versus 3.
Finally catching Resets there, but at the same time, Cyber going to be finished off. Bullet waiting from down below here. He does have a Nitro in his pocket. Will he catch the play? It's out, but it's way off the mark here. So no dice on the Nitro. That was the saving grace for this team. But with Liquid giving the FaZe roster, the FaZe setup inside of dorms, absolutely zero respect. It wouldn't have mattered anyway here. There was still so much time left on the clock. And Bullet now sat in a desperate scenario here. He's just going to try to stat pad, I think, and they'll use this extra 35 seconds or so to be able to build up a little bit of intel, allow their IGL to give out some encouragement, hopefully some advice about how to play this one out. As this round is done and dusted, Liquid are looking at an easy third one, and they're going to continue to build up a massive advantage.
I have some advice. Run. That's my advice. This is just terrifying what Liquid are able to produce here inside of this best of 3, not only on Club, but also on Oregon. Ask with the pistol whip. He runs across Kitchen right onto his tailcoats. The bullets come, but he's got that pistol whip ready as he'll take out the remaining FaZe member. Liquid up 3.
So going to be a pause here, which we pretty much could see that coming from a mile away with the lack of an attempt to clutch out the 1v3. So let's take a look at how exactly FaZe is going to try to come back from this. What can they do, as nearly every single aspect of this game is going wrong for them right now?
It's just so impossible at the moment because FaZe,
they feel if anything, even more confident to make those types of plays, given how well it went for them inside of our first map back on Clubhouse. Ask, as you can see, leading the charge right now for his team at 6-1, with the rest of his teammates not being too far behind, as everybody else has a fairly respectable scoreline as well. Nesk actually 0-2 at this point, but it doesn't even matter with the results that Liquid are putting out here.
Absolutely the case, my friend. This is unprecedented, especially with what you and I witnessed the last time. I mean, John, we watched these two probably play some of the worst Siege that I've seen these two teams play ever. Inside of this, this LAN here. It was actually absurd.
Like 3 days ago.
Yeah, actually absurd the things that we were seeing. FaZe making huge mistakes, jumping out of windows and not defusing, people nading each other, people just simply not watching flank, and then this is what we get out of Liquid. They've leveled up. They're on a whole new caliber of play in comparison to FaZe, and they just simply can't compete in the moment.
Only irons the point home that the group stage was truly a warm-up for some of our teams here, and now only inside of this playoff stage are they really going to start ripping and roaring, trying to fend off all opponents as quickly as possible in order to set up a big advantage for them here in the upper bracket. Liquid even coming into this one with a bye, so this is just their first matchup so far of this playoff stage here. FaZe having to contend against Oxygen earlier. Yeah, didn't seem to have too much of a problem dealing with them, but now struggling massively versus Team Liquid, making very little progress, and in fact regressing in some aspects from the matchup in the groups a few days back.
Well, resets will add to the drone pool here as they continue to try and find extra information to influence this mid-game now. Cheeky spot here for the Smoke, as he'll be all the way upstairs of all things for a Smoke player inside of dorms. Yes, indeed, folks, you are not being deceived. This is indeed a basement site defense. Cameraman here in a pretty cheeky spot. I believe he's got the SMG-11 shotgun in hand, so we'll have to see exactly what he can possibly muster from this position. Obviously, Liquid not really knowing that this will be going on, as they haven't droned out the full map like they traditionally do. They're just trying to go for the site instead, and this could come back to bite them. This could be where we see the turn from FaZe, depending on how this goes for our Smoke.
So it's been a slower process this time for Liquid here. They do have to proceed quite traditionally in order to get themselves access to the basement because of the more normal setup we're going to get from FaZe inside of this round here. Hopefully giving them enough player count inside of the site to be able to fend off this action from Liquid that they're eventually going to commit to. But at the same time, with Liquid not having much in the way, blocking their intel game specifically, you can see this. No mute jammers present this time for the defense. No Mozzie Pest going to be blocking off the drones either. They'll be completely free to just flood some of these pivotal areas with that intel and allow for them to build up a plan to assault this. However, limited options to actually get themselves into the basement between the hatches and what is that? Nesk walking up there, not accounting for Cameraman's position, still extended out here. That's going to take him down as we got the rest of Liquid working their way in. Still going to have to watch out for the descent from Nesk, but at the same time, they've evened it back out. Souls now bringing his own heat to the table, though, as he finds resets, and things looking a lot better for FaZe all of a sudden, but you can't count Liquid out as usual here. Ask with another exchange, and Cameraman coming back down the stairs. This is looking a lot more workable here for our defenders.
Absolutely absurd that the Smoke on Rome is what's going to put Liquid away here, but yes, indeed. Astro will take down Ask, and it's all left up to Palu. 6-2 at the moment. If he can get it done, it'll be 9 kills for him, but the move already done from Astro, but he's out of bullets. Oh no! He's got the pistol though to secure it, and that'll be the very first round here for FaZe.
Much stronger stance here from FaZe, feigning the fact that it would just be a default hold on the inside of the site, and having those players hiding in the wings, most notably up towards Attic there, to fend off the pressure from Liquid. They line up their shots this time much more proficiently, and even better than that, avoid the large majority of the trades. They don't overcommit themselves to any of these fights here. And as you can see, in quite a few of these situations, members of Liquid either completely ignoring or just not being aware, specifically of Cameraman's position, but a few others as well, sneaking them in a bit too haphazard from Liquid. And it's going to cost them their first round here. Still leading at 3-1, but also locking down the first site from FaZe. They're going to make a return upstairs for this upcoming round and head to the double dorms.
It'll be dorms again without a Jaeger, as Cyber will pick up Valkyrie. We'll have my discs in order to be able to handle other things coming in onto this site setup. As for the remainder of FaZe's setup here, we will have Astro back onto the Melusi here. So more than likely have these Banshees placed around to try and get in front of Liquid and make sure that they cannot be as dynamic in their push as they once were. We'll have to see if that works up against them, as they've looked quite strong, and I don't know if that last round will be enough to slow them down, but we'll just have to see. As for Liquid though, we'll have PSK with the Nomad coming into play, and something that they will definitely be looking into more than likely for the remaining rounds, as FaZe able to get away with way too much on that roam.
5 seconds left.
Liquid priming themselves for spawn in just a second here, but FaZe not necessarily giving us any huge surprises in their own setup. Just your usual double kits, dorms, or double dorms hold, rather. We'll see just a few more areas being reinforced as we get towards the end of that prep phase and into the action. As Liquid spawn themselves out here, a couple stragglers going to be left down below here. Cyber and Bullets will be putting a little bit of aggression out from the kitchen and Yellow Hall area to try and stop the initial clear from Liquid themselves. And hopefully get that opening kill yet again here to give them the respectable distance they need to trade out in a worst case scenario on the site in order to win here and make the scoreline a little bit closer to what would be a 3-2. Nesk, of course, catching on to this. He's going to spot out some of the counteraction coming in here from Cyber. Won't bite into it just yet, but at the same time, he's not going to be alone, so there's a possibility we could see this player get pinched out, especially with Ask now lining up his own position over towards the White Stairs window. Cyber still wants the heat, but it's going to be Nesk instead that grabs Bullet closer towards Kitchen.
Unfortunate for FaZe now, as they've lost the opening blood here. It was 2 for 2 back and forth, but Liquid pull ahead with 3. They know one's still here as Nesk will get down, but Cyber gets dusted, and oh no, it's all for naught now. It's a 5 versus 2, and Nesk wasn't confirmed. He'll be picked back up. He can use the Gemini to assist now to try and clear out most of this. FaZe only having their 2 members remaining. Luckily enough for one, it's Cameraman. As well, Souls will take the initial duel here against Ask outside on the master balcony, but does he know that the pressure's coming up the stairwell? He does. He'll take down Palu. Tries to add to it, but Ask is too good in this situation. This will shut him down. Cameraman knows that he more than likely has to start trying to pressure here. He's trying to look for his isolated one-on-one. He finds a drone. He'll be able to get rid of that, and he'll smoke off this eventually once Dorm's pressure starts to come in, or rather Trophy. He'll move back to Dorms now. Another smoke out here, but that was exactly what PSK wanted. Liquid claim round 5, and they'll get their 4th.
So a bump in the road on their second assault towards the basement, but immediate correction coming in from Liquid as they're able to take top control yet again here. FaZe trying to take the fight to them, trying to out-aggro this very aggressive Team Liquid. And that goes pretty much as you guys would expect it, with Liquid controlling every single facet of that round yet again, only tripping up very slightly by losing 1 or 2 players over the course of it here. 4-1 is the scoreline. Liquid looking at a possible repeat of the same scoreline, same halftime score this is from our opening map. If they can claim one final round here, as FaZe are going to make another return to the meeting hall hold for the first time since this game started.
Now, with that being said, there's something that's very fortunate about this in comparison to the very first round, and it's that Liquid do not have Ying inside of their operator pool for this one. And that really was the biggest thing, the biggest tool that Liquid used in order to claim that round. If you guys remember, Bullet got the opening blood on that, and then FaZe had to try and retake with both ends of Split smoked off and Candela's going off like crazy inside of the site. It made it nigh impossible to actually push back in and try and get any vision because, well, all you'd be seeing is white. And for Liquid, that made things extremely easy for them to not only get the plant down, but set up for a perfect post-plant situation, especially for Palu upstairs on the meeting, or rather attic, window. As of right now, looks like we will be having some very similar setup here for FaZe, as they will be controlling this top floor for the time being.
So Liquid up 4-1 now over the FaZe roster. FaZe, once again, going to bring a fairly expected lineup to the table for the defensive start on this one. Really looking to mitigate the utility being chucked in. It's a good thing they bring that as well, because the switch up for Liquid, as Stokes was mentioning there, away from smokes and away from the Candelas, and instead relying on 3 sets of frag grenades that have now been brought to the table. And you guys can see that utility at your top left. It's 2 frag grenades per player here. So just do the math real quickly, and you'll see exactly how it's been lined up for our attackers. We're going to have to hope now that the ADSs on top of the Wamai discs are going to be enough to mitigate the large majority of those, as certainly Liquid should be capable of bringing that surgical play, be able to get those nades in the right place. And with the flashes being brought as an insurance policy, Liquid themselves might even have a plan to deal with these extra forms of mitigation. We can see some of them being flashed in now. This is going to be a distraction for the noise queue. I'm placing down the EXO. I'm going to be able to get that off. Of course, it'll be disabled, I think, temporarily here, but still going to see it go off relatively quickly in just a second here as soon as that fades away. Cameraman with the big swing at the big window, though, gets the first kill of this round as he's going to find resets over by Dorms.
Well, luckily enough for Liquid, they have switched things up as they'll be going for a kitchen attack instead. The biggest issue now is that they don't have any top control just yet. The smokes will continue to go off on white, preventing Nesk from taking a hold of this location. PSK trying to work his way up the main stairs here, as well as Astro could have a possibility of a flank as the shotgun coming in. Cameraman will dust Nesk on very low HP, but unfortunately for Nesk, no shots coming out of that ARS, or rather ARS. ARX, dude, it's so dry in here.
Your mouth just doesn't want to work.
Like the Sahara Desert in here, my friend. But either way, Palu will be next up to the plate as, well, the flank will work out here for FaZe. And fortunately enough, so will the round. A flawless one for them. They desperately needed on this defensive half as they make things a little bit easier on me going into the dying moment.
Yeah, much more respectable outcome to that round 2 for FaZe Clan here, and kind of, an obvious point as they end up flawless on that one. Liquid, for the first time in this entire series, have their wits cut out from under them. Hit clothesline as they try to make any type of move in that final round, and that's going to be a huge confidence boost to FaZe, but at the same time, their time in the sun is now up on this defensive end of our very defender-sided map. And now they have to get ready to jump onto the attack, where Liquid will probably reignite some more of that crazy capability that we have been seeing inside of the first half here. They still should have plenty of confidence to try and pull these types of moves against FaZe, even on a site like this, as they're going to go immediately into a basement play.
And this is where things could change up for FaZe. They were able to get 2 rounds on their defensive side, and obviously with the Warden ban coming in, the Candelas from Yang are going to meet in quite a bit, as we saw for Liquid's offenses as well. So this is probably going to help out FaZe quite a bit. We'll have to see if they can get control of the space for meeting initially and try to get these Candelas down towards pillars and things along those lines, but that's for later on into the round. For now, Liquid are setting up the basement in the way that they so choose. And well, they'll be bringing Amira along for the ride as well. Palu will be setting up these mirrors, one inside of a closet, more than likely one over on the freezer wall, just so they have extra insight as to what's going on in that space, and then we will get down to the nitty-gritty.
Well, FaZe spawned out. Let's take a look and see if they're going to be able to catch any of these roamers from Liquid. Most notably Nesk at this point here, playing the small tower counter. Away from that, he might have 1 or 2 players supporting his position as well. It certainly seems to be the case. But FaZe have these preset drones ready to start scouting in that direction here and hopefully finding out the positions of the members from Team Liquid here. It'll be some time, though, before we see all that intel start to work its way out. And actually look like the large majority of players from Liquid that were going to be fooling around upstairs have now had second thoughts about it. And instead, we go towards a more traditional sort of anchor setup here instead for our defensive roster.
Yes, indeed. And for FaZe, they'll be looking to Astro now for the Rotero drones to start clearing up some of Liquid's utility, making things a little bit easier for them. Cameraman will begin torching the hatches as well as the Rotero drones go down the stairwell and look to see if it can get rid of anything like Banshees or anything of the sort. And that's exactly what it will do, is it will destroy the Banshee on the island, which could be a telltale sign of a laundry freezer take. But we'll just have to see. They definitely still have plenty of time to be able to shift this wherever they so please. But just looking for a kill in the current moment. He'll pre-fire as of right now, but nobody home inside of the space, as Souls, with no smoke, secondary hard breach will get the hatches for FaZe.
Can opener being used to open up that fairly quickly, and PSK whipping a bit there, trying to get his shots on the Rotero drone. All good, as I believe it wastes the drone, knocking out no utility in the process anyway, unless there was a Banshee or something like that sat on the stairs. Yep, so there was a Banshee. Thank you very much to our observer for confirming that for me real quick. I saw it in the corner of my eye, but wasn't sure if it managed to catch it, but indeed did. So in fact, the Rotero working out quite nicely, as they're going to try to pop out another one here as well, and also use the soft breach to open up another window into the E-drop.
Oh, Bullet now with some nades. Is there any ADSs inside of this space, though? We're about to find out more than likely. Ask now stuns coming in onto him inside of Elbow. He'll continue to smoke things out as Cybro set an air jab down onto the ground here for the construction door. PSK, though, more than likely won't be rotating there anytime soon as FaZe have basically lobbed off this entire section of the map. Now, actually, PSK has made the cross because he killed Astro. But will the air jab be able to find him? That's the big question. He's worked it into the corner. Nitro sell out. PSK glaringly aware of the push, but it's actually Ask that grabs him instead. We'll have the Candelas come out as FaZe is falling to pieces. They'll jump in, look for the frags. They'll find one, but not before the refrag comes in from Nesk. Ask to grab the last kill, and Liquid to grab round 7.
There's too few players getting into that site too late into it. We had to see them split up just to try and negotiate even a chance to get site control there. The trade setup's far too strong for Liquid, and things go just like you would expect them to. Just like we were seeing back on our first map on Clubhouse, as Liquid immediately rebound, falling short just a bit there towards the end of the first half, but now in control once again at a 5-2 scoreline. Only 2 away now from controlling the entire series in very quick fashion. That's 7-2 overall for this map here. The site is going to shift itself, not towards, at least for an EU and NA perspective, the expected second site here, as normally we'll see teams go upstairs instead. Shouldn't be surprising, though, considering the way we already saw FaZe play out their own defensive half. They're going to head onto our first floor hold towards Meeting once again. Let's see if this will work out for them.
Yes, indeed. Meeting, a pretty unique site when it comes down to it, especially with the hatch blade that comes in through Meeting, where you can see some nitro cells poured in from the basement. But that's not what we saw from FaZe. Might not see it from Liquid either, as Liquid was able to get that stage plant down and make things seem pretty easy in the process. Obviously, Liquid will be extending this hold upstairs to make sure that FaZe cannot run amok over their defensive setup. And this is actually going to be quite extensive, as we have a deployable shield with some Yokai drones from Palu, as well as some Banshees around the space from resets, in order to make things a little bit easier, not only to slow down a FaZe, but also for the info game for these players that are in more of these strenuous positions.
So with FaZe out on the field, what's going to be their plan to get control? What's going to be their plan to figure out the types of setups that Liquid have deployed towards? Once again, it's not going to be too crazy for Liquid here, as they won't throw out anything that is brand new for the actual positioning and the overall setup that they will bring to the table. But FaZe still have to be very, very cautious about how they proceed, considering the very mixed results they have had on openers. Even just looking back at map number 1, not a single opening kill going in their favor. They need these desperately to negotiate for some type of positioning against Liquid. We can see both Nesk and PSK taking the front spots here in the meeting room site. That will need to be cleared out or flushed out in some way before FaZe can even realistically think about taking it. And that's not even accounting for the upstairs hold in Attic also.
Yes, indeed. As FaZe begin to work their way into the map, some air jabs downstairs to make sure no one can rotate up the big tower stairs to try and do anything to these FaZe members as they begin breaking up the site. Mute Jammer down, but luckily enough, the Rotero drone short, so it will still go off. So they'll blow open the stage wall. Liquid more than likely well aware of the situation at the current moment, at least now, especially if the stage wall has been blown. So we'll see how they would like to respond. Still have top control here as the stuns start to pour in, or rather smokes from Souls, as he's looking to go for the smoke plant soon. One of them will be grabbed by a Wamai disc, I do believe, as they try to nade in through the space to make sure no one's inside of sandbags, but it's only PSK that's home for the current moment. Trying to look for another frag in the moment if he can find another frag grenade out, but it's actually Bullet to hit his frags instead. It's a 5 versus 4 now as FaZe still try and make some space to try and put this plant down.
Extra foot forward from Liquid here to try to play out into the open, comes back to bite them, but at the same time, Nesk downing out Souls in the Toxic Bay, blocking the path forward, gets the confirmation. The exchange is found. Liquid are right back into it, and even worse, the case is now down on the ground too, but they continue to peek into these fights here. Members of FaZe respond, but so does Liquid, immediately seeing Palu pick up the exchange onto Bullet, keeping us even in a 3v3 here. Cameraman lurking onto the inside. He's got his chance for a plant now, but does he have enough support to try and risk it here still, as there's more members from Liquid waiting right around the corner in the connector. Here we go. They'll attempt to put it down onto the ground. Ness cannot spot it here, and Cyber is going to be able to take out resets. More and more members of FaZe getting into secure Overwatch positions here, and it's left everything on to Palu, who also is going to get swiped off of this round by Cameraman. A response from FaZe is found, and we are right back where we started here at a +2 round advantage for Liquid.
Very well done from FaZe there. Love the way that they worked the map and were able to secure most of tower, making it very difficult for Liquid to try and rotate into them. Some very big pickups on the kitchen end as well, as Palu tried to fight back, but unfortunately unable to for Liquid's sake. As for FaZe, they're able to stave off match point, which they desperately needed to do in the moment, and now only 2 rounds away from tying us up here, but a seriously long road ahead of them, especially when it comes to the frag department. Ask has been popping off, as well as Palu, and they really need to get the show on the road.
If anyone else from Liquid wants to join the party here, it would pretty much seal the deal, as we would have so much firepower being brought to the table for this team. Just not really sure if FaZe would be able to contend with that. That was what we saw out of Liquid inside of map number 1, but a few players, most notably Ness and Resets, struggling inside of map number 2. Resets, of course, can be forgiven to some extent, but Ness, not necessarily the case. This is a big player for Liquid, and a big player globally, looking at statistics as well. We expect better from him, so we'll see if he'll maybe have a bit of a late map contribution as he's able to come alive a bit more.
Liquid will be headed up toward dorms for this one, and Ask with a pretty interesting pick for his primary weapon. He'll be bringing the Supernova. We don't get to see this one too often, as I believe we're all pretty used to the MP5 SD, but if you think about it this way, it's pretty much a makeshift M590 SMG-11 setup. You have the secondary bearing 9, you have the Supernova primary shotgun for rotations and things like that, but even then you really wouldn't even need it that much given the impacts that Palu and Ness have, but they might be using those for prevention or things along those lines. As for FaZe, they're now out and about on the map here, and they'll be clambering their way towards the top end here as they start to warm up this drone game and find some extra insight onto the Liquid squad.
Slow building here for both of our players. Nice catch from Nesk as well, just barely getting that Artero drone off this time and stopping the destruction of what would have been his entire setup inside of the attic position too. He's got to find another one though. This one gonna make it through, and yep, it'll get triggered. So goodbye to all of that utility. All 3 of the ADSs. Kind of a big risk inside of this meta to put all 3 of them kind of scrambled together like that. But either way, the choice is made and the consequences are now dealt with for Liquid here. And Nesk has to fall back more than likely from his garage position.
I was gonna say, if you wanted to know if Flores was a good operator or not, there you go. That's basically all you needed to see. PSK gonna take a lick of damage from that, but only a lick, nothing more than that. Liquid will be able to at least stay alive for the time being. The Yokai drone's finding some insight as to what's going on Master, so they know this is starting to look more like a Kids Dorm's offense than anything. As well, Palu will be able to continue holding on to Trophy for a time here. Cameraman still manning the kids' dorm space. They'll be able to get one in down low and start looking for armory, just in case somebody does start to try and rotate over to this area. That Yokai will go inside of Z as well for some extra intel for Liquid later on over towards White. Nesk will now be stunned out as the discs are nowhere to be found, but Bullet will find him instead as he rotates back in towards dorms. Astro's been able to grab a hold of the attic space as he'll drop down into Swamp and begin pushing forward.
Okay, drone charging off its first stun to attempt to hold back some of this play, but only even exchanges being found so far. Cameraman really shutting down the Liquid play, and he's been a huge proponent for FaZe throughout most of this series. Palu nearly getting caught in resets, only able to negotiate one, and now he's the only one left here as FaZe bully the members of Liquid out of the site yet again. Case down now in a 1v2. This is winnable for resets here. Would be an outright 1v3 if he can work it here. As he found out one player's position, he's going to have to consider again that they'll both be stacked together, and he won't find it out quickly enough as Astro negotiates the last kill. And suddenly FaZe are back in this map. They're back in this series as they're only 1 round away from tying it up.
Now, the big news for Liquid right now is that they can head back towards basement, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Laundry Supply, the next site in the site rotation here, as they were able to win that pretty handily when FaZe went for their execute. And the other thing is, John, is that FaZe have completely went away from the Ying It's going to be Nook instead. I just wanted to double check before we got too far into that. They've banned Warden out to make sure that they can utilize Ying, but the biggest thing is they're not really putting it to its maximum potential. The good news is, though, they're going to move away from Nook and they're going to pick up Capital. They more than likely were talking about that and we're like, hey, they don't have access to Warden. We can really use smokes here as well as those firebolts, so we'll see how far they can possibly get with those. The big thing is, though, Nesk is on the direct counter in the likes of Wamai, so they're going to have to make sure to clear out these discs before they get too far ahead of themselves.
Will certainly be the priority, and certainly won't be an impossible task for the members of FaZe, as we will once again have Astro on the floor as bringing those explosive drones into the fold. Of course, have the possible capability of the Magnet just being positioned on the roof, and I would say that that's probably going to be the expected position for those to be placed into, so a little bit harder to take those out, but as you were mentioning, the intel gain strong for both of these teams, so more than likely FaZe going to prioritize the elimination of those, or at least dump in their own flash supply before they attempt to throw in either of those bolts.
Well, FaZe will be reinserting themselves inside of this round as they'll be entering the building from the lobby space. PSK will be repositioning some of these ADSs as seemingly nobody home over on the north side of the map, and he's extremely correct in this assumption. He's going to move them up into the freezer hallway to try and make this a little bit easier to play for his teammates. As of now, though, Astro and the remainder of the squad looking to clear out this mid-floor and start opening up some of these hatches. That'll be on to Cameraman, as well as, well, actually not Cyber, as he won't be applying that secondary hard breach. Instead, a Claymore here to make sure nobody can rotate into meet, and a pretty cheeky one at that. Even though there's only one laser being poked out there, that's still a Claymore that will kill you if you end up running into it. So, Rotero drone out now, and more than likely a Banshee being removed from the table, just like it was the last time, and there it goes. No matter what you do with the BP there, it's still going to go off. So, fortunately for FaZe, they can now run amok inside of this space.
And just trying to stop it before it managed to trigger itself, but a little bit too slow on the trigger, so those drones will continue to flood in. Soft breach used for it here, and does manage to take out a Magnet as well, so even a little bit of utility getting dealt with too. Some great utility usage once more. Astro here as he continues to really harass the setups from Liquid and make mincemeat of most of their utility. Making it much easier for FaZe to bully their way in time after time after time again. What was looking to become a very one-sided series before for Liquid is suddenly a much closer competition here. As again, FaZe sit at the brink, sit ready to challenge the members of Liquid. Do Liquid accept that, though? Do they swing out themselves to potentially try to contend directly against it? This is how they've lost a lot of players in earlier rounds. They might want to sit back, wait for FaZe to make the first move here, as they're stacked up to a worrying degree here. 4 players trying to insert themselves through Freezer. 1-to-1 exchange has started off, but the lost one on FaZe has not been confirmed as of yet. Oh no, now 2 down on the ground as well here. Going crazy with the M590s. He's up to a personal 3 on this round. Cyber is alone, and he won't even get the clutch started as he's knocked out by PSK, and Liquid finally negotiating an offensive round for themselves. It's already going to put them on map and match point.
Now, where are they going to go for this next site? That's the big question that we all have shaking around inside of our heads for the moment after they're able to secure their second basement defense downstairs. For Liquid, they're thinking that it's going to be kids' dorms. Now, this is where we saw FaZe do a very bang-up job of clearing out most of the odds and ends when it came to the dorm space. They were able to get a dorms window as well. A huge Rotero drone coming in through Attic and clearing out that shield inside of Swamp that had 3 ADSs on it, and it ate up all of that with a single drone. So for Liquid, they'll more than likely rethink their strategy in this situation, as those Rotero drones will still be on Astro. We'll more than likely won't see all of those ADSs dedicated inside of Attic this time around, but hey, they could still stick to it and just try and get rid of those drones in the first place. We'll just have to see. PSK is going to set up one of his Goyo shields here inside of games as FaZe begin to try and get some extra intel here inside of the prep phase. They don't want to go too far, obviously, as to not lose drones early on, but they just want to make sure that Liquid will not be roaming around the main level.
So with Liquid up on the cusp of a 2-0 victory for the second time this tournament versus FaZe. FaZe have a reputation to provide for themselves. They have an upper bracket position to defend. They now need to close out these next two consecutively. And once more, that is only to trigger overtime. This is just like what we had back on Clubhouse. A little bit less desperate and a little bit more palatable for FaZe, but very similar circumstances with FaZe chasing down their earlier deficit and hoping they can negotiate it back here before Liquid it's that final point needed to shut down the round here. First Rotero drone dead. That's a huge piece of utility getting found out by Liquid. But the good news is there's plenty more. Astro is still with 3 of those to bring in. We are going to see at least one of those successfully make its way forward to deal with some of the opening utility positioned over here by the front door.
And a cheeky angle here from Souls as well, one that you can utilize at home if they end up giving it to you. Ask will actually end up going down inside of White as he doesn't really know that the bottom white window has been open. So unfortunately for him, he's dead to rights. He's just simply going to sit here.
No one's going to come get him.
Yeah, just hold his wound and then not hold his wound and just move his arms back and forth because that's really all you can do inside of that situation. Unfortunate for him is he is the top frag right now for Liquid, but a great boon for FaZe as they begin to clear up a lot of this utility. Now Palu looking for a refrag in a certain sense to try and equalize here as we are already past our opening minute.
Souls still hoping to find another member of Liquid leaning back out here. Once again, FaZe have been able to catch, even just in Ask's case, plenty of members of Team Liquid just because they're caught roaming too late into the round or trying to make a transition that they really shouldn't be or trying to take a fight even. Might be a bit too bold. As we're seeing now, in some cases, 4 resets here as he nearly gets found out by a nade through the floor. We saw the red ping for just a second, and the second one is going to follow it through as it's a clean opener. 3 kills in a row from FaZe here. Liquid bow down to the assault coming in here from their opponents, and now it's going to fall to Nesk and PSK to try and clutch out a 2v5, but this is probably already going to end up being too far gone too quickly unless we see a heroic comeback from these last 2 players.
Need some serious kills to come through here for Liquid as they try and chase FaZe down, but already a positive boon here for them as Nesk will take down 1. PSK now as well inside of the white space. Could possibly claim a life, but nobody on the window for the time being. Bullet gonna wait for the swing here and he'll find it, but PSK, what a shot from him. They've almost got the equalizer, John. It's a 2 versus 3 in the moment, but fortunately Astro will shut down 1 and he'll get the second one as well. FaZe not out of this fight just yet.
FaZe taking a slow approach to that clear there inside of the 5v2, and while yes, it does bleed out a few additional members of the assaulting team, it gives them the room they need to find an opener where they can insert themselves in between, drive a wedge almost, in between the last 2 players alive, and ultimately take control of that round without any further losses. I believe a tactical pause is going to be working its way in here now for the members of Team Liquid as they've suddenly lost their mojo a little bit here. They've lost their aggressive capability, especially on this defensive side, to just shut out FaZe entirely. FaZe much of a problem against the rest of FaZe as they try to assault the site. The bigger issue, though, is going to be fending off those Rotero drones and other forms of utility clear that's been making their insight setup so weak and has possibly been forcing out some of the peaks from Liquid as they might feel they need to do that to get themselves ahead now that they don't have ADSs, deployable shields that they would normally rely on as time-wasting devices.
Absolutely, and especially like last round when Ask gets picked off like that, they're looking to try and kill someone to equalize there. And then once somebody else dies, it's like, okay, well, we need to be aggressive again to get a kill, and then it just snowballs into one big old problem. So fortunately enough for Liquid, they still had that tac timeout, and it's still regulation, so they can still close this out at a 7-5 score line. Now, though, they will be going back upstairs just like John had said. We'll see if they can try and reapply themselves to this in a considerable fashion, unlike the last couple of times here, as we did have a 6-pick come in for Palu away from the Echo and onto the Aruni, so these laser gates could assist them in a certain sense. They've opened up some new holes to be able to use here, especially at the back of Trophy that they could possibly utilize to lock things up. And just look at this defensive matrix inside of this space. Not only the window out here for top main, but there's a Banshee down on a reinforcement, a bulletproof for extra insight for Palu here. There's going to be Nesk inside of Attic to be able to make sure nobody pushes in from that direction, and he's going to have smokes here as well to be able to lay for the actual kid's closet and things along those lines. But the big problem is with all of that utility inside of that space, that means that FaZe might possibly find the soft spot that would be over here inside of the actual dorms.
Well, we got FaZe working their way in through small tower, going for the usual opening clear, while a few other players, most notably Astro, will start posturing up towards the big window in Astro's case, mainly as a deployment point for those Rotero drones, be able to start blowing up all the utility hidden deeper in the site. Away from that, Soul's also going to be paying close mind to any potential little tricks Liquid may be trying to pull with big tower positions, and there will be presence here. You can see it. Ask is going to take up a spot inside of T3, but they'll have to wait for the moment of opportunity to try and strike against the members of FaZe when they're trying to put pressure through rappel on the kid's window, or possibly over towards the big window if they'd be leaning out in the right direction there. It's a risk if he stays quiet for too long as well, because as we've seen time and time again, members of FaZe are going to be leaning into the site eventually, and he doesn't want to rotate in too late, but thankfully it works out this time for him. Ask secures the opening kill. They don't account for a potential T3 hold, and Souls becomes the first victim. As we see the kill picked up on the opener again from Ask.
This is a massive issue. That's the thermite, and now this is all left up to Cameraman to be able to get all of this open. There's no secondary hard breach on this team. It's going to be all torch work for them to get a hold of anything that they so choose. Bullet now trying to get some control over the white space, but luckily enough, a frag grenade will come in from underneath and it'll land on deaf ears. No one taking any heat from that, as Liquid have finally found their stride here on the Dorm's defense, but it doesn't mean that FaZe can't fight back here in a certain sense. Bullet still on white as Palu continues to hold things down in Dorms, awaiting the arrival of these FaZe members.
Pretty much all the nades wasted here for FaZe as well, or at best used to knock out utility. You can see at least two trying to take out a player in the position towards kids' dorms, but look at the help from Liquid. 0 damage done from that one. So FaZe failing in that regard here. And now not going to have anything to use to waltz into the site with, as we see Cyber with an excellent cross established for himself. Only able to negotiate 1 kill, but there's the confirmation on the second. And Cameraman, no respect given to Liquid, as now they're waltzing right into the site. Problem though, it's only an even conversion, brought down to a 2v2. Ask trying to commit himself to the fight. It's a great distraction that allows resets to bang back out and take down Cyber, leaving Cameraman alone with only 10 seconds to correct. That's a good shot to start things off. He knows the last player's over towards white. Possibly going to go for a rotate, but no, Cameraman playing into this gambit too heavily. Oh, nearly able to line up a headshot there at the end, but it won't pan out. Liquid shut down the series 2-0 after a bit of a bumpy second half. Course correct very quickly in order to take control of things inside of regulation. It's 7-3, followed up by a 7-5, and it's 2-0 to Liquid as they keep their position in the upper bracket